Boom, baby, we're live. We are getting going right now. The debate is starting, and we have to go to X. We may get shut down. MLD motivation. Elon Musk said he will not be taking down any fucking debate clips, anything like that whatsoever. Rumble is down. YouTube is acting crazy. God knows what's going to happen, but I got to coverage this because, you know, it is what it is. I'm not partial to any candidate, despite what I'm wearing. No, I'm just joking. You know what it is. Let's roll. Let's see what's going on here.
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me.
Oh, shit.
We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious.
This guy sounds like he's dying.
You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible.
Whoa.
And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out a position where
it's like Hillary Clinton in 2016.
Jobs, but there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble.
Bad luck.
I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed, is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for a insulin shot as opposed to $400.
He's already short now.
Has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price of around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Motherfucker, you 4 years to do that.
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs, a bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And
gas was cheap.
The fact of the matter is that
we were balling.
We found ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover.
Because of the pandemic.
The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still found ourselves in a position where.
So were you when you were vice president with Obama?
A safe country.
What the
fuck?
Truth
is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cause countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China, It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down and then they bounced back. And he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt. Well, so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent. All of the things he's done, we've become like a third world nation. And it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, he got $2 trillion tax cut, benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires.
What the fuck were you doing the last 4 years
in America? And what's happening? They're in a situation where
they
pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
You better save his ass.
Right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly
9 minutes, guys. You've been going for 9 minutes.
Millions and millions of people coming in. They're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump.
Biden needs some
Dana?
sins.
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill. And I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And
Murder
if you
those
look at
babies.
this
Fuck 'em all.
whole
Kill
question
babies.
that you're
Fuck
asking, a complex, but
Idiots.
not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is
Biden looks
I
like he's
put
having a
3 great
flashback.
Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing.
This guy's confused.
Texas is different. Florida is different.
Look at him.
But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote
Look at
of
him.
the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided, supported Roe. And that's this idea that they were all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal. There's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous.
Raped
And
by
we
your
can do
sister and
nothing
you get
about it.
pregnant?
And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same
Raped
people
by
he
your
allows to
sister
come
and get
across our
pregnant.
border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. but they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have, everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it.
Unreal.
Everybody wanted it brought back. And many presidents
I
had
bet
tried
you
to get
they
it back.
remotely have
I was the
some
one to
kind of
do
like
it. And again, this gives it
pump
the vote of
device,
the
like
people. And that's
remotely
where they
pump
wanted
wide
it.
enough,
Every
like
legal
insulin
scholar
pump that's
wanted
like
it
glucose
that way.
controlled with like adrenaline
Staying
or
on the topic of
Premature
abortion,
or
President
whatever.
Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states
This is the same
have
topic.
no
in case you
legal
forgot.
restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die.
Is the volume
That's the only
low,
circumstance
guys?
in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional
Why is
scholarship
Biden's
said
mic
was the
on that
right way to
quick?
go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do? In fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board.
What?
At 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number
Bullshit.
of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch, overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we find ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure they were.
The cages built by the
families were
Obama
separated.
administration. He was
That's
doing
not
the
right
same
way to
thing.
go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol.
Welcome
and
aboard,
more
Red Bull Thor.
asylum officers.
President Trump?
Skull, son. I like your outfit.
Into that sentence.
Thank
I don't
you.
think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists,
20
all
million.
over the world, not
20
just
million
in South
illegal
America,
immigrants
all over the
over that
world.
border.
They come
20
from the
fucking
Middle East,
million.
everywhere, all
Almost
over
10%
the world.
of the
they're
American
pouring in.
population.
And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great. And by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in his administration, killed three American soldiers, That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and he just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in
those opium fields out there,
France, for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up. Just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking, it's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
Four-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst.
Veterans in the chat, let me know your
That's what you
opinions on
call him,
Biden.
that we've ever had. They can't stand him.
All
So
military
let's get that
veterans, your
straight.
opinion will be put on
And they
screen.
like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind.
Brian
We
L.
lost
says
13
Brian is
beautiful
Biden is
soldiers,
treasonous.
and
Yes,
38
Navy. Thank
soldiers
you for
were
your service.
obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he
Cody
said,
Huffman is
you
in
know
the
what?
United
I
States
think we're going
Army.
to go in
He
and
hates Biden
maybe
as well.
take my,
And him.
this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything, no money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
That's true. We're live and Rumble too,
I've never
guys.
heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president.
Ruben is in the United
Here
States
they
Navy.
attacked.
He says
He said they're just having
Biden is a
headaches.
joke of a
That's all it
commander in
is.
chief.
He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine,
Guys, real quick, smash the like, please. Let's get this message out to so
do
many
whatever
people.
you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
if
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the
No, they're
territory
not
in Ukraine.
acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war,
Disgusting.
and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has
That's
made one
rich coming
thing
from an
clear.
American
He
president.
wants to reestablish what was
That's pretty
part
fucking
of the
rich.
Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of
Yeah,
Ukraine.
it's crazy.
That's what he wants. And then you think
bullshit,
he'll
right,
stop
Thor?
there? Do you think he'll stop when
Oh, yeah.
if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO
You
countries?
stay alive big
So if
enough
you
and
want a
long
war,
enough.
you ought to
it becomes
find
the
out
truth,
what he's
right?
going to do.
You're coming in a little
if
low,
in
buddy.
fact
Can
he
you turn your
does
mic
what
up?
he
Okay.
says and walks
Maybe give it
away,
like a 25%
by the way,
boost.
all that money
You got to
we
compete
give
with my big
Ukraine
mouth.
from
I know. I'm
weapons we
sorry to
make
put you in this
here in the
position.
United States, we give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
How is that now?
Thank you. Moving on
little
to
bit
the
better.
Middle East.
All right.
In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking
Our
hundreds of
greatest ally. Oh
hostages.
no.
Among those held and thought to still
Whatever
be
will we
alive
do?
are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened in Israel? We're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need.
Does Israel really care about killing innocent people, though?
I'm the guy that organized
For real.
the world against Iran when
Didn't they kill a bunch
had
of kids in
full-blown
Gaza?
intercontinental ballistic missile attack
Yes.
on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent 100 billion or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them? So you got to put up your money like I did with NATO. I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any, they were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO. We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious
Bullied
threat to
Japan
whole
into the
world
support.
peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
Uh-oh.
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, no, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And I said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes.
Bullshit.
As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend,
They
unquote,
opened the doors and let them in.
What do
There's
you say to
footage
voters
there
who believe
of
that
the
you
fucking
violated
people
that oath
opening the
through your
doors,
actions and
letting people
inaction
into
on
the
January
Capitol.
6th,
They
and
didn't
worry that you'll
form
do
it.
it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were
One second,
respected
guys. I'm
all
going
over the
to
world.
reshare this because I want to show something.
Sure.
Can you guys hear that still?
Lost the audio.
Oh, did you? Okay, hold on one second. How about now? How about
You
now?
have 80 seconds left.
Good to go.
Is what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that
This
you'll
is
do
from
it again?
the
Well,
Wall
I
Street
didn't say
Journal
that
here.
to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically.
This is from the
And
Wall
Nancy
Street Journal.
Pelosi,
Yep.
if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter,
Wall Street
who's
Journal
a
is fucking as
documentary
liberal as they come,
filmmaker,
and they're
what they
putting
say.
this shit up there.
But she's saying, oh,
They're all
no,
Marxists.
responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor in writing turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see, I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full
There were
responsibility.
feds
for
at the
January
January 6th location as well, letting
President
people
Biden?
in. Bunch of feds.
Look,
Oh, yeah, false flag, man.
those folks who go up in Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. You know, they've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing, the Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is
Your son smokes crack and fucks prostitutes, bro.
Stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things.
Take care,
all
Thor.
of the death caused at the
Thank you,
border,
sir. See you next time.
Love you.
The Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion, or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Morals.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about
Claudia
these cases,
on
because they
Instagram
understand
says,
it
who
better than
voted
he
for
does. He has
Biden?
no idea what
A
these
lot of
cases
women.
are.
Majority
When
women
they
voted for
found out
Biden,
about
actually.
these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam.
Yep.
And it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you hear any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Yeah,
People
right.
coming
Shut
out of
the
the
fuck
woods
up.
carrying
You're controlled by
swastikas
Obama.
on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The people the ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people? This is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
Brother,
President Trump.
$5.
Jake, both
Thank
of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it.
Yeah.
And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that,
Shut up and take my money.
Carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened.
Kumar doesn't want to be deported
We
from
saw the people
America.
breaking
That's why
through
he's
windows.
saying that.
We saw people
Kumar,
occupying
don't make
that.
me call
His own
immigration
vice
on you. I'll
president.
find
Look,
you.
there's a reason why.
I'll call my Indian
40 of
connections.
his
We'll search all
44
7-Elevens and we'll get your
cabinet
ass.
officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why?
You
Why?
better
They
make
know
me a
him
Slurpee,
well. They
Kumar.
serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
They're going to drug him up. Biden's got to come backstage, get some morphine, some adrenochrome. Jesus Christ, what a nightmare. That guy, can Biden even survive? Can Biden even live for another 4 years? Honestly speaking, this guy sounds awful. They need to give that guy some Zyn, some Coke, some fucking adrenochrome, some fucking adrenaline, norepinephrine, whatever you got, give it to the guy. Kyle 2020, $5 super chat says, I think Biden's tell is when he's speaking coherently, easier to lie than to remember the truth. Interesting. Yeah, well, he looks awful, bro. This is just an abomination. Unbelievable, bro. There's no dude. if I saw that guy working at a restaurant or something, I would just be like, dude, this is so fucking sad. This is an old man who is fucking being manipulated and used by this system. It is just absolutely reprehensible. And I think the most solid thing that Trump said was that you're trying to justify his administration. Average people know I fucking hate the goddamn tax system in America. Under Trump, the tax system was far more bearable. And listen, you could talk all that shit, you could say whatever you want. Gas was cheap, everybody was making money. You personally reflect on your life. 2017, 2018, 2019, and then obviously we had the fucking China bullshit in 2020, which all turned out to be a scam.
Shut up and take my money.
Where were you? Who was making money? Were you financially suffering during those times? Okay. And then the 2020 election, listen, we can't even say the truth, what we think about the 2020 election on YouTube because it's controlled by Google and you're going to get in trouble. Now, let me just show you something as well. Okay. I'm going to give you a live demonstration here. Okay. I just was checking this out. So take a look at the screen here. I've got an incognito mode. Take a look here. Okay. So I'm going to show you something. I'm going to type in something. Trump campaign donations here. Okay. And just click on that. And then the thing here is Time Magazine pops up as number one. And then a bunch of these different ones. But actually, you know what? This was a different result when I was not in incognito mode. Let me go to 1 second. Let me fucking put up a regular tab because I just did this. Oh, wait, this is what Trump campaign donation. So you type in Trump campaign donation, you have BBC.com, Open Secrets, Washington Post, the Time Magazine, CBS News, U.S. World News, The Hill, The Telegraph, Washington Post, France 24, fucking France 24 when you type in American president, CNBC, NBC News, Forbes, CNN, Politico, and then boom, buried down here is Donald J. Trump, right? Okay, now if we type in this, Biden campaign donations. You try this at home. Take a look. Number one, JoeBiden.com. Is this a fucking coincidence? Come on, suck my fucking dick if you think I'm fucking dumb and I don't understand the fucking truth, okay? You can click right here and then boom, how can I donate? Where's the Biden Victory Fund? You can immediately jump right up in there and fucking donate immediately. Okay, so Trump was saying how the whole system is rigged. Guys, we knew the system was rigged. We've been aware, in the red pill community and furthermore in these masculine self-development places. Oh, we're back live. We know the truth now. We know that the system's rigged. We're not fucking dumb. Shit. Here we go.
While Black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, Black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small Black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. In addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that Black families have to make relative to childcare is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce Black childcare costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for childcare costs. We got to make sure because when you provide those childcare protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
Anybody who supports this guy and says he's doing good at this
What do you
debate
say to
is
Black
fucking cope.
voters who are disappointed with the
Cope.
progress so far?
Absolute
I
cope.
say I don't blame them for being disappointed. inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family first-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest was forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that
Kumar, I will
his big
shut down your
kill
7-Eleven. I
on the
swear to
black
God,
people
motherfucker. I
is
will
the
shut you
millions of
down.
people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden.
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back, 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy.
Please, it was fucking Democratic policies and
There were no
vaccine mandates that are
jobs.
shutting down
Provided
businesses,
thousands of millions of
stopping people
jobs for
from going to
individuals
work. Are you
who were
fucking kidding
involved
me?
communities,
Are
including
you
minority
fucking kidding me?
communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, if the ACA has increased, I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for the health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing anything, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and
live
rising
image
sea
here
levels.
provide to you guys
Former
as well.
President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's
These are
climate
live.
initiatives, but will you take any action as
I mean,
president
look
to
at
slow
this
the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from
So
every
bad.
state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them
Anoop is a
super predators.
50% Indian myself. I agree with you. I just fucking hate
Super
Kumar.
predators was his name, and he called it to him for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it
This
happening.
is a live
But when
poll
they
right
see what I
now.
did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I
Unbelievable.
funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You've 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water. and I want absolutely clean air. and
Pay
we
more
had it.
taxes,
We had H2O.
and that'll stop the
we had the
climate
best
problem.
numbers ever.
Pay more
And we
taxes
did-
because the sun
We
is
were
hot.
using all forms
more
of energy,
taxes,
all forms,
and then
everything. And yet,
All these governments
during
are
my
the most
4
wasteful
years,
in the
I had
world,
the best
and they'll finally stop.
environmental
All you got to do
numbers
is fund
ever.
these governments
And
with
my
more
top
taxes.
environmental people gave me
Then,
that statistic just before I
despite
walked on
their
the stage, actually.
eons of
I don't know
failure,
where the hell he's been.
okay,
The
they're going to turn it
idea
around.
that anything he said is true. I passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. In history, we find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones who was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people, but we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We're not able, the United States can't get its under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people who learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time of the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I've been proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%. 1%.
No, I
So
don't.
going after, I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000.
I'm getting fucked, and I don't even live in America and have to fucking pay taxes. I'm getting fucked in the ass.
1%
It is awful.
to be able to guarantee the program.
And I don't even fucking support
So
the
you still
wars.
have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanted to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And that's what, and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that he, I believe, supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people,
The Border
400
Patrol
I mean,
just
20
tweeted
40
something.
million
Check it out,
people
guys.
would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition.
Border Patrol Union. To
only
be
allows
clear,
them to
we
have
never
that
have
insurance.
and never
Here's
will
the
endorse
fact
Biden. So
that
he's
they, in
caught
fact, are
lying
part of
on
the
national
ACA.
television.
And by the way, the other thing
Is
is,
this live?
we're in a situation
EP
where I
Union.
talk about education for Black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year are going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before.
Bro,
By the way, when I said suckers and losers, he said,
don't even
he
say that.
acknowledged
The
after that
VA
he
is a
fired that
mess.
general.
The
That general
VA
got
is a
fired
fucking
because
mess.
he's the one that acknowledged.
My brother is a
that's what he said.
veteran, and
He
I
was the one
can tell
standing
you,
with
I have
Trump when he
tons
said
of
it.
veteran friends in
Number
the
one.
communities
Number
through the
two,
Masculine
the
Empowerment Network.
idea that we're going to be in a situation
Total
where
fucking
all these
mess.
millions and
Total
millions,
mess.
the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs.
Henry
There's a
Debs
reason
says
why
right here,
we have the
migrants
fastest
being
growing
treated
economy
better
in the
than veterans.
world.
So
The
true.
reason why we have the most successful economy
No
in the
American
world.
should be left
We're
behind
doing
for a
better than
fucking
any other
illegal
nation in the
immigrant.
world.
Sorry, if I'm paying
And by the
taxes
way,
to our government,
those 15
and our
Nobel laureats he
our
talked about
economy,
being phony.
we're going to take
Those
care of people
15
who are
Nobel
here
laureats,
illegally? Are you
economists, they all
fucking
said
crazy?
that
Are you
if Trump is
fucking
reelected,
insane?
we're likely to have a recession.
Get the fuck out of here.
And inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every
Antonio
military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
That is hilarious.
He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now, all of a sudden, he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America.
Not
There's
anymore.
nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world.
That's true.
The finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history, one through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President
childcare
Biden.
facilities.
President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make childcare more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
This is
President
Gallup
Biden?
poll.
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff. He will increase
Joe
the
Biden,
taxes
bottom.
on middle class people. I said I'd
38.7.
never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that were imported. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. Middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You have the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
You lost.
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you,
It's affected
the
Hunter Biden.
number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China.
Yep.
He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it.
German
We
Shepherd.
did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs
I got the
coming
best
across our border now
drug
is
detection
the
dog right here,
largest we've
guys.
ever had by far.
Fierce.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while.
What do you
And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl.
Trump?
These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents.
Close the
more
border,
numbers of
dickhead. The drugs won't get
all
in.
people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his
Happy same size. She's
Republican
just for
colleagues and
your.
said,
I gotta
"Don't do
take
it.
her to the.
It's
get
going to
her
hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together.
Mexico.
That's
and the
what
new
we have to
president.
do. We need those machines.
Our greatest
Thank you,
ally.
President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage, we always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every
Okay,
time.
we got Brittany
We had
Griner
two
out,
cases. We paid $6
and we
billion
sent back
for
one of the
5
biggest
people.
Russian warlords
I got
of all time.
58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Because
Thank
she's
you,
black
President
and
Trump.
lesbian.
Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. Well, the whole idea of computer chips, we used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and to bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call that to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. we're the envy of the world. Like, name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems
Japan.
and all our opportunities.
Okay.
We're the most progressive country in the world in
El
getting
Salvador.
things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and our those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like, go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's it. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is.
Bro,
Look,
you
I'd be
fall
happy
down
to try to
walking
be
around.
president.
Like,
I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. That he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was at 8 handicap. But I have, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not
how
act
many
like
rounds-
children.
President Trump, we're going to
21
turn
Let's not act like children.
You
to
are
a
a child.
specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police.
there
And
you
as
go.
Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment, because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, a required response. The idea.
Look at those
the
eyes. I
idea.
swear to
I
God, they're
can't think
remotely
of a
hitting like a
single
pump
major
to fill them full
leader
of
in the
drugs.
world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war,
America,
just let
the
Putin
world
go ahead and
police.
take Kyiv, make sure
Everybody
they
hates
move
that.
on.
That's why
see what
BRICS
happens
is growing in
Poland,
power.
Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing.
Yeah, Biden is not
this
blinking.
man right here.
Look at him.
That's a war that should have never started. It would have never
Why is he not
started
blinking?
ever.
There's
with me.
one.
And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this with, he's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning
Trump
that
is
war.
blinking.
He said, I will
Trump-
never settle
look.
until such time.
One,
They're running out of
two,
people. They're running out
three,
of soldiers. They've lost
four,
so many people. It's so
5,
sad. They've lost so
6,
many people, and they've lost those
7,
gorgeous cities
8,
with the golden
9,
domes that are
10.
1,000
Look
years
here.
old, all because of him and stupid decisions.
What's
Russia
going on
would have
here?
never attacked if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you accept the results of
She's
the election,
blinking.
regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week.
Look.
Or we'll have another one of these on
Why
in a
is he
week.
not blinking?
But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather
what
do.
the
It
fuck
would
is
be
going
much
on?
easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really
Look at
going to
this.
run until I saw the horrible job he
He's
did.
not blinking.
He's destroying our country. I would be very happy
one.
to be someplace else in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only
Look at
way
this
he
mother-
thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local.
Look.
None. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There's no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose again, you accepting anything,
This
you
is
can't
weird.
stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate, live from Georgia.
Yo, what in the actual fuck is going on? This dude is not blinking. Like, even me, I'm like thinking when I'm just here, like I'm blinking like, you know, like a normal person. But he's like, it makes me feel, here we go, just full conspiracy. Okay. It makes me feel like when he's not speaking, they're like tapping into his brain and like, I don't know, like holding him at homeostasis. And then like, it's your turn to talk. He's like, oh, okay, here we go. Cause that's fucking crazy. Shout out to you guys in the chat. John Fox says Biden on more drugs than the Austrian painter in World War II. Oh my God. That is really weird. Yeah, look, say, and Bea Indy, she says that he doesn't blink. That's pretty fucking unreal, man. What is going on? Is it MK Ultra? Pedo dementia. Biden is being told what to say. I believe that. You know, he probably has an earpiece in or something. I mean, come on. If we're dropping nuclear bombs in 1940, you can't tell me you can't put like a microchip in his ear for you guys to fucking control this guy. The fact that he's so confident in winning really is alarming. And actually, after this debate is over, I have some clips from Project Veritas where they actually have them on record saying The reason why we're letting in so many illegals is because we're trying to change the demographics of America. Guys, it doesn't matter if you're white, black, Asian, doesn't matter. Okay. If you are an American and you know your rights and you understand that the government works for you, not the other way around, they don't want that. They want to bring people in who are illegal, who don't know the country, and give them aid and everything. And all they're going to say is like, hey, in return, we need you to fucking vote Democrat. And they just got caught handing out at the Social Security offices and the welfare offices. They just got caught handing out voter applications to illegal immigrants. So let's be fucking clear as day. They're going to try and steal this election. And I quite frankly, if Trump doesn't get in office, I'm going to be pretty worried about America, because this is just absolutely devastating. This administration, if you are saying like this administration is good, and you see all the fucking gay shit. Sorry, bro. If you love sucking dick, great. Go ahead and suck that dick. But I don't want you fucking marching down a fucking street in front of my little nieces and nephews and try to peddle that shit upon them. Putting all that shit into fucking education for the kids, teaching them about gay sex and shit when they're 4, 5, and 6, when Americans are some of the fucking most uneducated people in the world in regards to education. We have some of the lowest literacy rates in the world. We have some of the lowest math scores in the world. It is an absolute abomination, but we're marching in all this fucking LGBT propaganda. Why? Why are we doing that to children? This is not like, just because you know a dude wants to fuck another dude in the ass, how is that going to prepare you for the future if you can't fucking be a competent individual? If your mathematical skills are abysmal, you're not going to know if you're getting fucked on a price. You're not going to know how to calculate a tip. You're not going to know if tax rates are good for you. You're not going to know if interest rates on your credit cards are good. Like, financial literacy is not being taught, but we're pumping this shit. I mean, people are, and listen, let's be honest, people are fed up with that shit, but it's all rigged. All the mainstream media is rigged. The fucking social media is rigged. The fucking censorship is out of control. The shadow banning. Thank God Elon Musk bought X, and thank God Rumble's on this platform, or on this earth as a platform, because we actually have a platform for free speech, because hey, we can't win other than lies and manipulation and cheating now.
It is now time for
Justification
the
of his
closing
presidency
statements
is a
as
joke.
predetermined by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair?
No.
The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where
Shout out to
he now
Edwin
wants
Fu,
to tax you more
a homie.
by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years, because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices.
Not blinking.
I'm going to make that available to every senior.
Look,
all along, it's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that.
there's one.
I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're
2,
doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems
3,
for people across the country. We're going to
4.
continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer.
He's normal.
He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
Wow. Look at this motherfucker. He just is it over? Oh, what's going on here? I'm about as confused as Joe Biden.
The president and former president making their way off the CNN debate stage. Looks like Jill Biden, the first lady, has come out. Former President Trump walking off the stage. The first debate of the 2024 campaign and the earliest presidential debate ever now in the books and in front of the voters. Tonight, along with Aaron Burnett, the first word of what those voters might make.
So, okay. First things first, let's go ahead and I want to go ahead and see what you guys think. So I'm going to put a poll in the YouTube chat, and then I'm going to review something real quick to show you guys literally from the fucking administration. Okay. I'm just going to say who won the debate and just vote in the chat right now. And you tell me, okay, was it Biden or was it Trump? I wanted to see what you guys have to say in the chat right there. So poll is now live. If you're not on any other platform other than YouTube, you can't vote, but come over to YouTube, youtube.com/Modern Life Dating, Modern Life Dating. Go ahead and click on that poll, and we will be able to keep that up and running. In the meantime, I want to show you guys something in the meantime. Okay, so just take a look here. Okay, this is something. When they talk about why this is happening, because you might be asking yourself, why is the border open? Why is why are they just allowing people in? It makes no sense, right? It's not because they care. It's not because they love these people. It's because they want to change the demographics of the United States of America. And now they have people, a U.S. consular officer on video confessing this because he's on a hidden camera. He thinks he's on a date with somebody. And there is footage I have this right now. We're actually going to play it. It's 4 minutes and 33 seconds long. And I want to show you because in my opinion, and let's be honest, with common fucking sense, I don't know if I can even say this on YouTube, okay? But let's be honest, the 2020 election, there's an asterisk mark next to it, and you know what that asterisk mark means, okay? That being said, the fucking election, in my opinion, was definitely not most integrity-based election, okay? So, that being said, now they're trying to do it a different way. They're just pouring these people in, illegals, and they're saying, hey, come on down. We'll give you all this free shit. You can stay in these luxury hotels. You can do whatever the fuck you want. We're going to give you credit cards with money on them. You're going to get money every month. And these people are literally raping and killing women, children. They just killed a fucking 12-year-old. Okay. Swear to God, if that shit, I swear to fucking God, if that shit were in my, I would never let that happen to the children in my family. First of all, my lovely nephew, niece. But I swear to God, bro, I always keep a gun on me in Florida. You fuck with my family, I assure you, I will go to jail forever to protect my family. If it had to come between some of my little babies dying or me going to jail forever, click, boom, boom, boom. All right, lock me up. Let's go. Fuck it. I don't give a shit. I don't give a good goddamn. Okay. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting that they let these people in. They're fucking tax burden. They're taking housing. You guys want to know why your rent's so fucking high? We have 18 million plus illegal immigrants in the United States of America, taking up the housing, taking up the jobs. Okay. This is not some fucking crybaby shit. This is just mathematically proven. And if they're pouring in addition to that, pouring in drugs, if you were really going to look at the state of America and say it's better now than it was in 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019, and 2020, you're fucking insane. You are fucking insane. All right. Period. And Trump just fucking bodied him so hard. Okay. So take a look here at this because I really want to show this. It's so important to you guys. Check this out. Okay. And this is it here. You can follow it. This is Project Veritas. Project _ Veritas, Veritas. Veritas means truth in Latin. Okay. And it says breaking. This was about a week ago. Biden's State Department official admits great replacement is real. They want to change the demographics of the United States. Traditional standard Americans are not leftists. Latin Americans are all leftists. This is just to try and change the demographics of the United States of America. And if you watched President Bukele, when he did an interview with Tucker Carlson, he was saying that they are fucking sending in MS-13 through the borders into America. A Satanist, MS-13, do you guys know MS-13 are Satanists? They worship and praise Satan. They take pride in being evil. Look it up. I'm not making this shit up. And they're fucking pouring into our country. And you know what? These fucking idiot liberals who keep voting this shit in, these MS-13 come put a bullet in their mother's head and they still defend this shit because they're fucking delusional. They have Trump derangement syndrome and they're not out being productive members of society. So all they do is get involved in politics and vote left all the time. Take a look at this shit right here and you tell me, what do you think? Okay. Look at this.
Like, man, I wish I could tell the world about this. Oh, there's a lot of things, but mostly with immigration. I wish people knew that we're letting in criminals daily.
The big issue for the Hill, for our region, is migration. So we poured a lot of money into Central America. Like how much? $4 billion over 4 years. But now migrants are coming from there, like Venezuela.
Somos de nacionalidad venezolana. Tenemos vuelo para Nueva York.
Entonces, ¿compraste un vuelo con Spirit?
Sí.
Sí,
entramos con la cita de IWAM por el puente fronterizo.
So what is the end goal? Why are they allowing it? They want to change the demographics of the United States.
So our aid goes to female prisons in Mexico.
Some of them, yeah, to like help train them up.
I'm working with gender issues in Pakistan, so we're trying to recruit, retain, and advance more women in law enforcement. The question becomes, should we be spending U.S. taxpayers' money in our country on this issue? When is it they don't seem to care about?
Secretary Blinken, how close are you to him?
5 degrees separation. This is such a niche industry that flies under the radar. Yeah, the average American does not know. Those people don't know what we do.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much to you, Ranking Member Risch, all the members of the committee, and thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Yes, briefing's coming up in 2 weeks.
He has briefings?
Yeah, on the Hill about the FY 2025 budget.
And that's Daniel Fitzgerald, country coordinator for the State Department.
Requests. And that's like with all the congressional people. Big issue for the Hill, for our region, is migration.
Oh my.
Stop migration. What are we doing to stop migration?
He's not accountable for that, is he?
Yeah, we do stuff for it.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh.
Right now, Andy?
I didn't realize that.
It's called the root causes strategy.
Ooh.
It's giving money to support and help people at where the origins of the migrants are, so they feel like they can stay there instead of migrating out. So it's Central America, basically.
It's what?
It's basically Central America, like support and development.
Oh.
So we poured a lot of money into Central America.
Like how much?
$4 billion over 4 years.
Oh. It's like a lot of money for those places.
It's a lot of money.
Is it doing anything?
I think for them, yes, but now migrants are coming from there. Like Venezuela, so we're like, oh, this would solve that problem.
Oh, no. So what does he say to that? That looks bad for the
It's hilarious how he's just sitting there laughing.
administration, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it looks bad for any administration because no one's self-migration. It's like the end all be all, like kill pill for politics.
Right. And I feel like if anything, the other side's gonna win because of it.
I know my dad used to complain about that. I'm like, oh, and like in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's not that much. And then I see the chart, I'm like, oh, that's a lot. Like,
And there it is right there. Immigration share of U.S. populations nears historic highs. So looks like back in the 90s is when it started going up. And then looks like 2010 when Obama started putting them in cages. Oh, no, that's oh, Jesus Christ. That's fucking 1880. And then looks like it started going back up around the 70s and peaking. And then, yeah, yikes. But so, okay, no, this is immigrant share. Okay, so I'm a two-time immigrant. You know, technically I was born in America, but my mother's an immigrant. I'm a first-generation American myself, and then now I'm an immigrant in Tokyo, Japan, right? So I don't think immigration is a bad thing, but you have to do it right. You have to do it legally. And I'm not a fucking drug dealer, criminal, mafia, rapist like all these the majority of these people coming in are. And it's not only President Trump saying this. President Bukele is saying this. Rick really says, is Bukele getting on the phone and like, hey, Trump, just send me some Bitcoin, bro, and I'll fucking back you up. I like, is everybody fucking retarded? And the answer is yes.
like compared to like 20 years ago. I'm like, oh wait, they're on to something.
And I don't know what to say to that.
I really don't. I literally don't know.
Like, what would the administration say to that?
I don't know. And like, I sit there too, and I talk with my coworker who like manages the migration process for the systems, and we always talk every time. Like, I don't know what we do. Like, there's no clear answer.
So do they do things within the foreign affairs departments that people have like this money going to these women? I mean, there's got to be some things that you're like, man, I wish I could tell the world about this.
Oh, there's a lot of things, but mostly with immigration, because that's the one that where the left is really good at immigration. I wish people knew that we're letting in criminals daily. Like when I was in,
you have confirmation of that. You have confirmation.
Oh yeah. So all the good, honest, hardworking Mexicans stay in Mexico, and all the pieces of garbage come to the United States, and those are the ones that we lend. We are literally, and the Mexican government has no reason to stop it because their garbage goes to another country and sends money back to them. Like imagine if the worst of the worst, if all the criminals in the United States were all going to Canada and sending back billions of dollars a year. Why would you stop that? I wouldn't even change the numbers of like if we let in 100,000 Mexicans a year, I'm like, let in 100,000 Mexicans a year, just change the quality of the applicant. Make it, say 100,000 Mexicans, but you can't have been in the U.S. illegally and you can't have a criminal record.
So what is the end goal? Why are they allowing it?
They want to change the demographics of the United States. They really do. Because I mean, honestly, the people from Nebraska, like my family's like Americans that have, my family's been in the United States for 400 years. Traditional standard Americans are not leftists. Latin Americans all leftists, and it's just, it literally is. It's just to try to change it.
There you go. Okay. And I got another clip from them that I want to play for you guys because I want you guys to be aware. You guys got to go out and vote. All right. Go out and make sure that they're not scamming the fucking, the Dominion voting machine CEO was just served a subpoena too. You know that? Take a look here. So this is a second part. This is Jonathan Dixon, senior advisor at the United States Department of Treasury. And he's talking about how the internal administration of the Biden administration is a fucking mess.
Advisor to an assistant secretary. Her name is Andrea Gacki. This administration's a mess. They don't do smart things, and they did not staff Treasury well.
So is Janet Yellen not qualified?
No, she is. Janet Yellen's old, right? Like,
she is old.
Yeah, she's in her 80s. She's an old woman. She split basically her duties in two, and so she takes all of the actual econ side and everything with money, and she left everything international to her deputy. Deputy's really young. He's 40. So he's like a young guy. Not the best, but it means that like a lot of our interactions are mainly with the deputy. Wally has ideas, and it's like, haha, they're never good, are they? And they're like, we don't say that, but yes. I've been an advisor twice. So I was an advisor for an undersecretary, and then for an assistant secretary. Now I'm like a senior advisor. I don't think he plays well with others. So he has like really bad instincts.
Mr. President-elect, Madam Vice President-elect, thank you for this profound opportunity to return to the Treasury Department and serve the American people.
Because she was like, the optics are, I'm an old white lady, I'm going to choose a young black guy.
Even out the.
And it's like, it adds to this.
Because they think you're all fucking stupid. Like, oh, look, she's such a nut. They appeal. You have to understand, people who are stupid, people who are dumb, people who lack success in their life, they are driven and controlled by their emotions. Okay. They are emotional eaters. They are emotional spenders. They are emotional drug users. They are emotional cheaters. Okay. They are driven by their emotions day to day. And the Democratic Party knows this, and they appeal to the emotions of these people. They're like, oh, what a lovely story. This white woman saw this disenfranchised black man and decided to give him a chance because this poor black guy. And isn't that a great story? Da, 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 da. Vote for faggot 2024, whatever, right? That's what their fucking game is. And they think you're dumb, and that's what they do. They care more about optics. They care more about how things appear than competent people. I don't even like to bring race into things. Okay, I'm half white. I am half Trinidadian. And if everybody were to look down on me and be like, oh, poor little brown man, we can help you because you're just a dumb, illiterate brown person, I'd be like, listen, bro, I will whoop your fucking ass right now if you say that shit to my face. I don't need anybody's fucking pity. And I know a lot of black people, my friends, all my friends that are minorities. I don't give a fuck if somebody's a color. I don't care. Is this guy a competent person? Is he a good person? Does this guy fucking have integrity? Cool. You can hang out with me. I don't give a shit what the color your fucking skin is. But people of color I don't want you to look down on me just because I have more melanin in my fucking skin than you do. Okay. Just because I cook my ass in Okinawa and Hawaii and Miami Beach and I get dark as shit because I'm rich and I love to go to all these beaches and I get darker than normal. Now you got to be like, oh, look at that brownie. He must need some fucking help because what a dumb fucking little brown man. Oh, you poor dumb little brown man. Allow me to save you, for I am your white God and I will tell you the greatness of whiteness. Blah, 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 blah. Suck my dick, kiss my ass, fuck you. I don't need your fucking pity. I made all this shit by myself. I'll continue to be a big boss. My fucking followers are continuing to rise up in power. We don't need your fucking pity. And that's what they're doing. But dumb people are like, oh, it makes a great story. The fuck out of here, bro. Get the fuck out of here. Suck my dick. I don't give a shit if I sound crass. I don't give a good God fucking damn. I don't need your pity. I don't want your pity. And you can kiss my ass, my white ass, because it doesn't get tanned on the fucking sun.
Mandate the administration had to try to bring in as many diverse voices as possible, which is really good, but he really feels like they were just rummaging in a bag and they were like, cool, you kind of fit what we need.
And he like fit the diversity, equity, inclusion.
And then he like his big like claim to fame was a failed initiative under the Obama administration. And I'm like, are we seriously trying to choose like the guy that does that?
Wally Adeyemo, the undersecretary to Janet Yellen, is best known for his Trans-Pacific Partnership efforts under Barack Obama. Even that, Dixon says, he failed at.
He tried to do like a trade deal with like Japan, Korea, Australia, and the EU, and like it was good in theory, but it was not well politically placed because everybody was like, it's NAFTA 2.0, and then everybody in the middle was like,
why do all these guys talk with a lisp and sound fucking like gayer than a $2 bill? What is going on with these people? Why are these people working in the government? These people are so fucking soy.
we like NAFTA. Like NAFTA like moved our jobs abroad, and they were like, yeah, you'll lose some jobs, but not good jobs. And everybody's like, well, our jobs.
Oh my!
So that guy, and it was like, really, it shows the leader of that to be.
Why did they do that?
He was young, and he counterbalances Janet Yellen's old. So
I don't know. It's all a clown show. It's fine. I got my 10 years in, so I'm starting to look, and I'm like,
no, right?
It's like, let's figure out what else is out there, guys.
Unreal. I mean, if you just deny the monstrosity that is the fucking current administration, I don't even know. I don't even. I mean, you just gotta. This is you.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumb for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Let's go back to CNN and see how they're coping.
More years of Biden.
And this opens the door, by the way, for the conversation about if Joe Biden remains the candidate, you're not voting for Joe Biden. You are voting for President Kamala Harris. Let's be honest. That is where the Trump campaign is going to go with this. They started down this road with an ad they released today. But this conversation about who you're actually casting your vote for, the volume is going to ratchet up. And I got news for you. She's less popular than he is. That is going to be a big problem for the Democrats if this ticket stays the way it is.
Yeah, and a Scott's Democratic friend who maxed out, right? That's the sentiment you're going to hear, I think, from some of my Democratic friends who are texting me saying, "I can't believe this is where we are." Right?
Yeah.
I don't forgive. I'm not going to be able to forgive the party for putting in this position.
Look, on the lies about on Donald Trump's lies. I mean, I spent a lot of time thinking about this throughout the debate because, we in the media, I sit in the chair and I fact check Trump all the time, so I know these lies by heart at this point. But people watching from home do not. And Biden's job as the other person on the other side of the stage is to be the one to very quickly dispense with the lies and to shut them down. And I don't think that happened
Are the
enough
vice
times
presidents debating
in a
next?
coherent way to blunt the fact that Trump was
Kamala?
taking a universe that was built on a house of lies and building
What does this mean?
building a whole world for the millions of people watching.
Particularly
And
on some of the most basic subject matters that President Biden should have been able to just.
That world that he was able to build, it was not knocked down by the president. That is really at the heart of the problem. He may have won when he was making his discrete policy the points, but part of the job on the debate stage is dealing with an opponent like Donald Trump who goes like a mile a minute on things that are not true. And if you don't deal with that,
Abby.
I don't know if no one at home is doing that.
All I
No
want
one
to
at
say
home
is
doing that.
I'm not sure. I don't think you're giving viewers enough credit. I think what they saw was the Trump that they didn't like. And I don't think he did himself a great service. To
but
yes, and I also think we should let voters absorb this and see what they say, right? Let's look at the dials. Let's look at focus groups. Let's look at where they are next week. We can make our pronouncements, but ultimately voters have to absorb
They're
it.
going to turn your mics off, guys.
Real quickly, on the one thing that that Biden did fact check him on the Charlottesville thing, he was completely wrong. Right, so he's up there talking about Charlottesville and Trump not denouncing the two sides, and Snopes was out last week. 7 months, like 7 years too late kind of thing on the deal. And that's the thing Joe Biden's going to fact check him on, something that was proven false.
We're going to more with the panel out here. A lot of notable moments, painful moments from tonight. But as we've been talking about, perhaps a single defining one as well, this one early on.
The cope is phenomenal.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare.
That was one notable moment early on. Let's go to Aaron in the spin room. Aaron?
That's right. That was a moment, I'm sure, Anderson, that you, your panel, me, my panel, and people around the country, that was a painful moment to watch. It was early on in the debate, and Audie, Caitlin, and Chris are here. It was very early on. Chris, it seemed from that moment, that was it.
I think it was even before that moment when he first started speaking, President Biden, and that the raspiness, the hoarseness in his voice, that was at 9/11. And there were several minutes when Jake and Dana were setting the rules. So it's got to have been less than 10 minutes into the debate. And he totally lost his train of thought and ended up saying Medicare just out of the blue. We've heard so much from the other panel, their reactions to this. I think ever since, and I've had this conversation so often, that after the midterms, if Joe Biden, after a remarkably successful first 2 years and a remarkably successful midterm for a first-term president, had said, you know, I'm the transitional president, and I'm moving on and sending it to another generation, but he was unwilling to do that, and Jill Biden was unwilling to do that, and ever since then we have been.
I'm just as you're saying that, I'm only interrupting you, Chris, because that is a watch party. That's live right now. Joe Biden is joining her at the watch party she was at in Atlanta. Obviously, a response that does not match what seems to be the broader response. That they're cheering for him right there, as you can see.
Do we want to watch that or?
No, we don't have to.
Okay, we're not. Anyway, I was just going to say that the two of them decided after November of 2022 that he was going to seek the presidency when there were so many people who thought he should have turned it over to a new generation. And this has been, quite frankly, a car accident in slow motion that we've seen over and building and questioning it. And, you know, as has been pointed out, Joe Biden sought this debate at this remarkably early time because he knew he was losing and he needed to change the narrative. And he did change the narrative. He sunk his campaign tonight.
Well, and we're in the spin room right now. This is where the surrogates and allies of the campaign come to spin their candidates' respective performances. And it is going to be an immense challenge for Biden surrogates. We have Governor Gavin Newsom here and also Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock in the back of the room. There are Trump campaign aides in here as well. No reporters are talking to them. Every reporter in here has just swarmed the two Biden surrogates that are inside this room. And I think what I'm most struck by after listening to that entire performance and talking to the Biden campaign officials and covering President Biden myself his first 2 years in office was part of his closing statement there. He made no mention of abortion or Donald Trump's felony conviction. The two things that they have talked about the most, the fact that that is the biggest contrast between President Biden and former President Donald Trump, obviously the felony conviction, but also what they've done on reproductive rights and the fact that 3 of the justices who helped.
Dr. B, did you notice? I don't know if you were watching on my stream or if you're watching over on Fresh and Fit, but did you notice that Biden was not blinking? Trump was blinking like a normal person. The two people, Jake Tapper and that other bitch, were fucking blinking like normal people. But Biden was like 10-second intervals between his blinks at best. Did you notice that? What is that all about, Dr. B? Oh, that's a common PD sign. Is it Parkinson's disease? No fucking way. Are you serious?
This is happening right now. So I just in this moment, he's at a watch party. They're cheering 4 more years. He's speaking. What I'm curious about, okay, is does he know how bad this was at this moment? He walked out to his aides. Does he know? And you can hear him a little bit on the mic.
If he doesn't know, that's more alarming than anything. You know, he's not the first president who's had a really.
Since we can hear it, why don't we listen to a little bit of it? Okay.
Heading to North Carolina. All right.
Counter.
Thank you.
Look at that.
I want to go home with you.
Not blinking.
Thank you.
Look at him.
All right, so there he is. Thank you. The rousing applause going to that party.
Okay, he wasn't a third that vibrant or vigorous inside the debate body.
Yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally, I think a lot of Americans saw Donald Trump they recognized tonight, right? His mannerisms, his quickness in his response, and as you talked about, lies and information that was incorrect. Unfortunately, they also saw a Joe Biden maybe they don't recognize. This is not the person who.
So what do you guys think? Let's go to the poll here. The poll says 94% of you guys think Trump won the debate, or 93% now, and only 7% of you are fully mentally retarded, and you think Biden won the debate. So pretty wild, to say the very least. But stupid people are everywhere. They're even in this chat. It's unbelievable. Yeah, just totally insane. Absolutely, just totally insane. I want to see what people have to say out here, because I mean, it's from what I've picked up so far. Okay, this is what I've picked up so far, and during the debate, okay, this is what they said about fucking our boy. Okay, and they said that Trump, let's see, had sex with a porn star. He caused people to siege the Capitol, even though Nancy Pelosi was in charge of that, and they were opening the doors for these people. Okay, what do you think these people are just going to go in there and take Congress hostage and like we're not going to send in our fucking SWAT team? Are you kidding me? You know how many fucking terrorists we dust off like that and you're like, oh, you guys were going to take over the Capitol? Bullshit. They probably could have sent in a team of like 12 Navy SEALs and killed all those people if they wanted to, if that Capitol really was under siege. But it was all political move. It was all for optics. It was all bullshit. They say Trump molested that woman when that woman is clearly fucking crazy. And it was a bullshit trial because they don't want this guy to win. They said Trump called veterans losers. They said Trump loves Hitler and he was singing Hitler love songs, but he won 2 club championships. And so here we are. Okay. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Shout out to you guys. HDZ says the 7% that said Biden are mentally ill. I would have to agree. Okay. Dr. B's in the house. He says he has a frozen face, doesn't blink, and moves around slowly. It is probably akinetic rigid Parkinson's disease. Yeah. Dude, how can that guy fucking run the country for 4 more years? How can that guy sit across from Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, okay, all these fucking crazy people in the world, and he's gonna fucking be like, well, you better stop that. Trump is sharp. Trump is sharper than some people in their 20s and 30s. You know, Trump doesn't drink alcohol. He doesn't do drugs. He's been, because his brother was an alcoholic and died from alcohol, man. And, you know, Trump saw that shit and traumatized him, man. Okay. So unbelievable. Unbelievable. What can I say, guys? What a crazy time to be alive. That's going to do it for me today. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Guys, go out and vote. Vote Trump. God, we got to save America, man. We got to close that border. I'm sorry. Illegal immigration is a crime. There shouldn't be 18 million illegal immigrants. Yes, we should deport them. It is not okay. And this is coming from a 2-time immigrant, comes from a single mother immigrant himself. Okay. I know the struggles of being an immigrant. I know the struggles of immigration. I've been struggling myself here in Japan. Finally got that resolved. Thank God. We're moving into the fucking 58th floor high rise Monday morning, building the new studio. Everything's coming together. Keep sticking with me. I love you guys. I'll be back here tomorrow. Free consultation Friday where you can call in and ask me all your questions. Until then, don't forget Money Muscles Game Frame. You know the name. It's me, MLD. I love you all. I love you. I love you. I love you. Stay positive. Don't get black-pilled. Don't get disenfranchised. That's what they want. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. Keep pushing forward. You can do it. I'll see you next.